Then, said the bards, Lir left the lake and pursued his wife to the court of the High King. He swept aside the lies the woman and her servants had told about the fate of the children. Bod, the Red, punished her. He transformed Aeth into a demon of the air, to flap raven-like and alone forever in the night. But even the High King could not break the terms of Aeth's spell. For 300 years the four swans glided on the waters of Loch Derravara and sang music so sweet that it eased the hearts of all who heard it. The swan children never were alone in that time. Their father and his people and the people of all the clans of the Tuatha came to the lake to hear them. During all that time, the storytellers say, Ireland was at peace. But the second 300 years of the enchantment were a different matter. On an autumn day, when the time had come, the swans rose from their lake and with mighty wing beats headed north to the coast, where basalt cliffs dropped into the icy, mist-shrouded sea the Irish called the Straits of Moyle. There, for 3 centuries, they braved the cold and loneliness, singing high laments that could be heard sometimes by the folk on the Irish and Scottish shores. When storms raged, they sheltered together on the rocks and fringed the cruel sea. And Fiongula was the shelterer, as she always had been in their childhood. She spread her wide wings over Con and the right and Fiachra on the left, and she settled her brother Hugh under the feathers of her breast. After that period of punishment was over, they flew west to the craggy rock of Innisglora, in the Bay of Erris. There they spent the final 300 years. At last, the term complete, the 4 swans rose as one and headed home to the hill of the Whitefield, where Lur's fortress was. Over the land they sped, high above the clouds, across Connacht and Sligo, and Leitrim into Ulster. But when they descended, they found a wasteland. Everything had changed during their long captivity. In the words of the chronicler, the hill was a desolate, thorny place before them, with naught but green mounds where once had been palaces and homes of their kin, and forests of nettles growing over them, and never a house nor a hearth. The Tuatha had vanished from the surface of the earth, retreating before the rising tide of humankind. These children were never to see their people again. The tale says that the homeless spellbound birds flew back to Innisglora, the last shelter they had known. There they met a member of a new race that had come to Ireland. A hermit saint named Mo Camock had settled in Innisglora in a round church he had built of stones. He kept the 4 swans under his care and made chains of silver to adorn their slender necks. Their release indeed came when a man of the north married a woman of the south. A king of Connacht wed the daughter of the king of Munster. Having heard about the swans, relics of an earlier age, the king assaulted the saint's island chapel and tried to drag the birds off by their silver chains. But as he touched the chains, the metal fell away, and with it feathers of the birds. The children of Lir stood revealed, no children now. In the swans' places, said the chronicler, were 3 shrunken and feeble old men, and 1 lean and withered old woman, fleshless and bloodless from extreme old age. Their sad lives were at an end, and when the sister and her brothers died, the old monk buried them so that they sheltered together as they had during their winter nights at sea. Fiongula in the centre of the grave, with Con on her right, Fiachra on her left, and Hugh lying across her breast. The steadfast devotion of the children of Lir was remembered for centuries after stones covered their grave on Innisglora. Christians built a monastery on the rocky island, and people remarked that the air of the place had some quality of purification and preservation, as if the love of the 4 children lingered there still. The bodies of people who were buried on Innisglora did not decay. The pain and waste of the lives of the children of Lear, centuries spent under the lash of wind and wave, imprisonment far from the father they loved, were punishments inflicted on innocence by a force that could not be contained or even moderated after it had been set loose. In her jealousy, the woman Aeth had made a spell of magic. When the spell was shaped into words, it formed a pattern of events that, no matter how much she regretted her actions, could not be essentially altered until it had played itself out in the meanings of the words had been fully realized. A spell was a story. The word meant tale. Once it had begun, the story unfolded inexorably to the conclusion announced in the spell itself. Every tale has a moral, and I hope that the underlying moral of this story is clear to you.